Good evening and welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Monday, the 28th of February. India's Prime Minister Modi chairs high-level meeting on Ukraine crisis, evacuation of Indians. Pakistan's opposition PPP kickstarts Long March to dislodge PM Imran Khan. And Afghan women drop studies to stave off poverty. And now for all the details, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi conducted a high-level meeting with his cabinet ministers and other key officials on Monday amid the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. 4 Indian ministers will reportedly travel to the neighbouring countries of Ukraine, including Romania, Poland and Hungary, to better coordinate the evacuation of hundreds of stranded Indian nationals as Ukraine's airspace remains shut. Cities across Ukraine remain on high alert on the 5th day of the country's fight against Russia's invasion.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday conducted a high-level meeting with his cabinet ministers and other key officials over the ongoing crisis in Ukraine, mainly focusing on the evacuation of stranded Indian nationals in the war-torn country and those who have taken refuge in its neighbouring countries. Ministers Hardeep Singh Puri, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Kiran Rijiju and VK Singh will reportedly travel to the neighbouring countries of Ukraine, including Romania, Poland and Hungary, where stranded Indian nationals are crossing the border and from where the Indian embassies are coordinating their airlift while Ukraine airspace remains shut. Earlier in the wee hours of Monday, India brought home another batch of stranded citizens consisting a large number of students as part of its Operation Ganga, the government's multi-pronged evacuation plan. Over 900 people have been brought back since Saturday and more flights were scheduled to bring hundreds of others in the coming days.
Crossing the border is the biggest battle because there's a lot of crowd there and some of my friends who came with me are still unable to cross the border because there's a lot of crowd and there's no way out other than fighting and kicking and pushing each other and crossing the border. But after crossing the border, yes, embassy is taking care of everything.
Meanwhile, the Indian embassy in Ukraine on Monday advised students to reach railway stations in Kyiv to avail special trains put for evacuations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier on Sunday said Russia had agreed to talks near the Belarusian border, but sounded cautious. He said he wanted his people to know he was open to try anything to stop the war.
And polling for the first phase of northeastern Manipur State Assembly election began on Monday, where India's ruling BJP-led alliance is hoping for a second term in power in a multi-cornered contest. 38 assembly constituencies of the state's 60 seats are voting in the first of the two-phase election.
Polling for the first phase of India's northeastern Manipur State Assembly elections began in 38 constituencies spread across 5 districts including Imphal East, Imphal West, Bishnupur, Churachandpur and Kangpokpi on Monday. A total of 173 candidates, including 15 females, are in the fray in the first phase. Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, contesting from his traditional home seat, Haingang constituency, is notably seeking the 5th term in Manipur. Speaking to media after casting his vote, Singh expressed confidence that ruling BJP Bharatiya Janata Party will be voted to power in the state.
Within this 38 seat, BJP is expecting at least 30 seats in the first phase. And I would like to appeal to the people of the state to vote democratically and elect their candidate. Free and a fair mind.
BJP candidate and PWD Minister Thongjam Biswajit Singh cast his vote from Thonju constituency. The BJP formed the government in Manipur in 2017 with the support of the National People's Party, Naga People's Front and the Lok Janshakti Party. However, this time the BJP decided to go solo and is contesting all 60 seats alone. On the other hand, Congress Party has formed an alliance of 6 political parties and named it Manipur Progressive Secular Alliance (MPSA). Elections for the 60-member Manipur Assembly are taking place in two phases, that is February 28th and March 5th. Voting in 22 constituencies will take place in the second phase.
And in news from Pakistan, opposition Pakistan People's Party launched its long-awaited anti-inflation campaign Awami Long March on Sunday, with party chairman Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari declaring it the start of a war against Prime Minister Imran Khan. Calling for the ouster of the government, Bilawal raised a 38-point charter demanding fresh elections.
Pakistan People's Party or PPP, one of the main opposition parties in Pakistan, on Sunday began its anti-inflation campaign Awami Long March from Karachi to Islamabad to force Prime Minister Imran Khan to step down. Shouting slogans of Go Imran Go, led by PPP chairman Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari, the party raised a 38-point charter demanding fresh elections as it called for a final push against what it termed unjust policies of the PTI-led fascist regime.
आए पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी के साथ तो आए इस हुकूमत के खिलाफ हम जिद्दोजहद करते हैं। हम आपसे पूछते हैं, क्या आपका एतमाद अगर इस हुकूमत से उठ चुका है तो वक्त आ गया है कि हम हुकूमत के खिलाफ अदम एतमाद लेकर आए, जमहूरी अख्तियार अपनाए और इमरान खान को भगाए।
The Long March participants would pass through 23 districts and 37 cities in 10 days before reaching the federal capital, Islamabad, on March 8. The multi-party opposition alliance, Pakistan Democratic Movement, has also decided to move a no-trust motion against the government soon over its failure to manage the ongoing economic crisis.
And moving on, scores of locals in Pakistan-administered Kashmir recently held a sit protest over the delayed construction of a campus of Punch University in the region, which has been lying incomplete for the past 12 years. Locals blamed their repeated pleas have fallen on deaf ears, and the non-serious attitude of government authorities has shattered the dreams of thousands of students desiring to pursue higher education. Reports suggest the construction work has remained disrupted due to paucity of funds. Locals in the illegally occupied region have long accused they have been at the receiving end of the discriminatory policies of Islamabad that has failed to provide even basic facilities to them.
हमारे साथ हमारी बहनें भी बैठी हुई हैं, माएँ भी बैठी हुई हैं। इससे बड़ी सितम ज़रीफ़ी की और क्या बात होगी कि 13 साल पहले शुरू किया मंसूबा अभी तक बन ना सका। तो हम आपके सामने कसम में बैठे हुए हैं।
The United States has welcomed the move by Nepal's parliament to ratify the contentious US-funded Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact, stating that it will continue to support Nepal in its long-term economic prosperity. The move came amid protest, with opponents expressing fear the aid agreement would undermine Nepal's laws and sovereignty.
The United States has welcomed the move by Nepal's parliament to ratify the contentious US-funded MCC Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact, stating that relation with Nepal is broader than one agreement and that it will continue to support Nepal in its long-term economic prosperity. Nepal's Finance Minister Janardhan Sharma presented the proposal in the parliament along with an interpretive declaration, after which a voice vote was conducted to ratify the contentious grant agreement. The move came a day ahead of the February 28 deadline set by Washington. MCC, a US government aid agency, had agreed in 2017 to provide $500 million as grant to fund an electricity transmission line and road improvement project. The aid does not need to be repaid, and Washington says it comes without conditions. Protests were also witnessed on the streets of capital Kathmandu, and police had to resort to tear gas shelling and water cannons to repel the demonstrators, who expressed they were wary of US influence in the region. Critics fear the aid would undermine Nepal's laws and sovereignty, as it would not have sufficient oversight over the projects.
And on the eve of Mahashivratri festival, a large number of Hindu holy men called sadhus gather at Nepal's famed Pashupatinath temple. More than 7,000 monks and thousands of pilgrims from Nepal and India are expected to visit the temple, and many have already arrived. Mahashivratri, known as the night of Hindu god Lord Shiva, is observed with great fervour in Nepal.
With Mahashivratri festival on Tuesday, sadhus or Hindu holy men have already thronged the sacred temple of Pashupatinath in Nepal's capital Kathmandu. Mahashivratri, also known as Night of the Shiva, is dedicated to Hindu god of destruction, Lord Shiva. The courtyard of the Ram Mandir in the premises of Pashupatinath temple, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and pilgrimage destination for Hindu devotees, is brimming with sadhus as they return after the COVID-19 pandemic. The Mahashivratri, which falls on 1st March this year, will witness an inflow of over 1 million pilgrims from Nepal as well as India to the temple. It is observed with great fervour in Nepal as well as in India and other Hindu populous countries.
हम 6 महीना बाबा केदारनाथ में रहता बर्फ में, 1 महीना अमरनाथ में रहता सावन के महीना में, और फिर यहाँ आता केदारनाथ का सिर है पशुपतिनाथ.
One of the major festivals of Nepal, Mahashivratri, is celebrated on the 14th day of the dark fortnight of Magha month as per the Hindu lunar calendar. It is believed that on this day, the stars in northern hemisphere are at the most optimum positions to help raise a person's spiritual energy. It is celebrated to mark the convergence of Shiva and Shakti. Mahashivratri also celebrates the night when Lord Shiva performed the Tandav, the cosmic dance.
And 24-year-old Wahida Bayat was a politics major at a Kabul university and used to fund her studies from her job at a local media network. But all that had changed after the Taliban seized power last August. Have a look.
24-year-old Wahida Bayat was a politics major at the private Gauhar Shah University in Afghan capital Kabul and used to fund her studies from her job at a local media network where she earned 12,000 Afghanis, that is $132 a month. But all that changed after the Taliban seized power in August last year, and an economic collapse that ensued dragged millions of Afghans into poverty. Wahida lost her job and her parents lost their income. Then she had to drop out of school.
زمانی که شنیدم که دانشگاه شروع شده، اول بسیار زیاد خوش شدم. به اینکه حداقل ما یا همنوی ما میتونه بره درس بخونه. ولی خب شخصا خودم نتونستم برم ادامه بدم، چون وقتی که دوباره به دانشگاه مراجعه کردم بر من گفتن شما غیر حاضر شدین و دوباره نمیتونین در صنف اشتراک کنین. برشان گفتم که اگر میشه، چون من قسط دوم دانشگاه خود تحویل نداده بودم.
To make ends meet for her family of 9, Bayat, the oldest, and her sisters make traditional Afghan clothes from orders collected from shop. Together, they make approximately 8,000 Afghani or $88 a month. And after paying rent and food bills, they barely have enough left to buy anything else, let alone to pay Wahida's $163 tuition fee. But she is determined to keep up her studies on her own and catches up with her former classmates once a week to learn about the progress they have made and receive study tips. The impact of the Taliban takeover on women has been unsurprisingly disproportionately large. Data shows women have lost jobs at a higher rate than men in recent months, and some of the rights won during 20 years of Western-backed governments have been reversed. Wahida's mother laments her daughter's situation. Although there are no official figures to show how many Afghans, men or women, have abandoned college due to the economic pressures, Wahida says 40% of her female classmates have dropped out of school due to financial difficulties.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now, our viewers can watch the show on southasianewsline.com. You can also visit us on facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow.